ongoing, on schedule, but not yet completed. And there's an estimated about $150 million still needed to complete the RIDE 3 projects. So, currently Horry County is discussing RIDE 4, a continuation of our transportation sales tax. If it passes, it would go into effect May 1st, 2025 to have that continuation from RIDE 3. But instead of 8 years, they are proposing 25 years. And it's estimated, and this number changes, I just heard a different number today. Previously it was estimated at $4 billion to money raised over that 25-year period. Lately they've been saying 5.5 or 5.8 billion. That is a lot of money. The project list, if you look at that printed list that y'all picked up at the front, it's incomplete. There's an update that we just got from the public meeting that was at the Conway Planning Department. They included that $150 million for the RIDE 3 at the top, the very first item. Fill in $150 million on that list. So if you add it all up, it comes to about $6.25 billion. So they're, again, estimating 5.5 to 5.8. They're hoping that they could get matching money from the state or federal government for another $1.1 billion. So where we're at right now, last year, it started off with the Sales Tax Advisory Committee of 16 people from all over the county putting together a list of projects that they would like to see. We are now down to a 6-member Sales Tax Commission, which is just 3 folks from the county, 3 folks from the cities. It's Conway, Myrtle Beach, and North Myrtle Beach each have a representative. And so they will be putting together a list. This list is not finalized. They are taking public input right now. But that Sales Tax Commission will be sending their recommendations to the County Council. And then the County Council will vote on it. It's going to be an ordinance. They'll have 3 readings. And then they have to finalize the list by August in order for it to be on the ballot for everybody to vote on in November. So right now is our best opportunity to weigh in for what projects we want to see, what projects we don't want to see before it goes to County Council. And then once they have that list set, if it passes in November, that's going to be the project list for 25 years. They can't change it after that. So we'll be stuck with just that list for 25 years. So, you know, some of the concerns we have with that. First off, the time frame of it, 25 years is a long time. We're talking till 2050. And Horry County is growing at an exponential rate. The Office of Resilience estimates just from 2020 to 2035, we're going to have a 72% population growth. It is very hard to predict where the needs are going to be 25 years from now. 20 years ago, Highway 90 probably would have been a priority, and it certainly is now. And it's on the proposed project list to widen the entire length of it. But a lot of major projects are not included on there, like 701 South is not on there. The Gardner-Lacey extension, which is a priority for Carolina Forest, is not included on there. The 501 Bypass Bridge is not included on this list. So, you know, again, now is the time to weigh in and have your say. If you think that there are projects missing, if you think that there are projects that are not necessary, now's our best time. We, the Coastal Conservation League, certainly believe that our priority should be on improving our existing roads before we talk about building new highways. So this map shows the road closures during Hurricanes Matthew and Florence. That's a lot of red. Not to say that all of it was from flooding. Some of it might have been trees that came down or other damage, but that is still a lot to cover. And again, the 501 bypass bridge almost went under during Hurricane Florence. So that, again, is an existing bridge that we believe should be our priority before for new highways. And so here are two new highways that are proposed, that are on the list, that the Coastal Conservation League opposes, and we have been opposing for about 30 years. We've been talking about doing this. So first one, SC Highway 22 extension, was formerly called the Southern Evacuation Lifeline, or SEL. That one is supposed to go from Highway 22, around through the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, through Bucksport, across the Waccamaw River into Burgess, have an exit at 707 and continue on to 17 bypass. So that's hundreds of acres of wetlands along that path, and again through the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, which is meant to be preserved in perpetuity. These are also two communities that have experienced major flooding, especially Bucksport has had almost annual flooding since 2015. And building a new highway through that community would only exacerbate their flooding issues, especially when you're talking about the degradation of the wetlands. These are also historic communities. Bucksport is still rural, Burgess not so much. It has also seen a lot of growth over the last 30 years or so, but Bucksport still has a rural character to it, and we do think that that character would be at risk of being lost if this road went through, that it would bring new development, very similar to what we saw with Highway 90 after International Drive was paved. Highway 90's just exploded in growth. So building the SC Highway 22 extension would likely open up western Horry County to more development. Also, it's estimated to cost $1.56 billion, and that estimate has varied a bit. The highest it's gone was $2.5 billion, so somewhere in the billions of dollars range. And there is an alternative. You'll see on the proposed project list, there's a line item there for a Conway River crossing. It's estimated at $860 million. That estimate certainly has gone up over previous estimates. I think it's mostly due to just uncertainty over the path of that road. It could connect to the Conway Perimeter Road, Phase 3, that was under Ride 3, and then go across the river and terminate at 544 near that Bojangles where the new RV park is. Previous estimates had that at about $362 million, so that could be a fraction of the cost of the SC Highway 22 extension. The other project that we have been fighting for decades is the proposed I-73. So the original vision for it had it connecting all the way to Michigan. That's completely off the table. It was supposed to go through the Francis Marion National Forest, then they shifted it to Horry County, and it's not even going to connect to North Carolina anymore. So the portion of 73/74 that's in North Carolina. Now the idea is to connect to I-95 outside of Latta. So the proposed project list has the Horry County portion of it from SC Highway 22 to the Marion County line, $450 million. Not even connecting to 95, just the Horry County portion. There would have to be state or federal funds to then build it into Marion and Dillon counties. So again, a low estimate for that project is $2 billion. And so far at the state level, the legislature has been prioritizing our existing interstates, I-95 and I-26, which need major improvements as they are. And so they've been rightly prioritizing those before talking about a new interstate. So this is another one that would have hundreds of acres of wetlands along the Little PD watershed. It would go through the Little PD Heritage Preserve. So that is just an overview of where we're at with these projects. Kara, do you have a presentation that you want to do? Okay, we'll turn this off and we will turn the lights back on. And I'm going to pass it over to Karen Schildnick with Winyah Rivers, or Waccamaw River Keeper.
Yeah. Like you said, I am your Waccamaw River Keeper with Winyah Rivers Alliance. I'm not texting. I have a couple notes on here. So our organization, our mission is to preserve, protect, monitor, and revitalize the lands and waters of the Greater Winyah Bay watershed. That's my boss. That was good. That was good. So our job is basically to protect the rivers. We are mostly focused on water quality, but obviously water quantity is an issue. And as the Riverkeeper, our concerns, my concerns as the Waccamaw Riverkeeper are for the Waccamaw and its health. Now, we all know that flooding is a major issue, and by creating more impervious surfaces with more new roads, there's going to be that issue that there is going to be more flooding. It's kind of inevitable. There's nowhere for the water to go, and our floodplains are going to be impacted, as are our wetlands. But flooding is not our only concern. With more impervious surfaces, you get more stormwater runoff, which leads to increased fecal bacteria, increased turbidity, all these things that make the water not as great as it could be. And we get a lot of our drinking water from surface water here in the area. So if our surface waters are polluted, that means it's going to take a lot more money to treat your drinking water, which comes back to us in higher water bills, which we don't really enjoy. One of the things that you're probably going to hear a lot about with these projects is mitigation. Mitigation is a hot topic. It's basically saying we're going to preserve land over here to take care of what we did to impacting lands over here. So we might run a road through a wetland, but that's okay. We're protecting wetlands somewhere else. The problem there is that it doesn't work that way in a watershed. If we protect the wetlands down in Socastee, that's not going to help flooding or water quality up in Longs, right? Or vice versa. Watersheds don't work that way. It's just the way mitigation works, but it's not the best solution. So even though we're probably going to be told mitigation is the solution to these problems, it's not, right? Like I said, water quality is a major concern. We already see issues with poor water quality after rain events, and something Becky brought up that I didn't even think of until I was sitting here. These projects are over the next 25 years, right? What have we seen in the past decade? We've seen increased storms, we've seen stronger storms. We're seeing climate change at a very real scale. You could say it doesn't exist, but we're seeing it every day. And we're going to see bigger storms, we're going to see more intense storms, and we're going to see more storms. And there's no way that we can predict 25 years out how those storms are going to impact that map of where those roads are going to be and what it's going to look like. So I'm not saying all roads are bad. I'm not saying we don't want any new roads. I'm saying we need to be smart about where we put our roads, where we put more development based on those roads. Like we said, with Highway 90, a lot more development came there with International Drive. Highway 90 is lined by 3 swamps. And when Florence hit, if any of y'all live out there, you couldn't get anywhere, right? Because the road was flooded, because more development came there. So we basically live in a giant swamp here in Horry County. Our rivers have big, beautiful swamps, and that's what makes them so special, and that kind of is why we all want to live here, right? We love our water resources, but we're impacting them at an incredible level, and we just need to be smart about how we do that. So when you're thinking about these projects and when you're thinking about voting, just keep that in mind. Anything else you want me to cover? Is that good? Sweet, short and sweet. All right. Grace? Grace is going to talk next. And she is with Friends of Coastal South Carolina.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Grace Gasper, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I know giving up an evening is a lot to ask, and we really appreciate you all caring enough to be here. Friends of Coastal South Carolina is the Friends group to Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, and as such, we advocate for, support, and educate people about our National Wildlife Refuge. And I say our National Wildlife Refuge because Waccamaw, the National Wildlife Refuge system, is protects and manages these lands on behalf of the American people who actually own these lands. So when we talk about Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, we're talking about your property. So the refuge protects 40,000 acres, and so far, all of the maps that we've gotten from DOT have not been great as far as showing the exact impacts of where these roads will cross in the refuges. So we're working on that and can hopefully disseminate maybe some better overlays of the rural lands. But of this project list, we are very concerned about any roads that would directly impact or be proposed to pass through the refuge or any other protected lands. Even Department of Natural Resource protected lands are potentially in the pathway. So we think these are public lands. They were intended to be prioritized for wildlife, although they provide tremendous public use. If you spend any time on the Waccamaw or Pee Dee River, you've been to Waccamaw National Wildlife probably. So there's direct impact and then indirect impact. And our concern over the proposed SC22 is that there are like 17, 18, 16, sorry, 16, still a big number, 16 alternative routes that are being considered right now. And to me, that doesn't seem like a road project with a purpose. It really seems like more like throwing darts to see where we can get it. But all of these would open up rural lands to development, to put farmland at risk. There's, I think, 326 acres of wetlands, up to 326 acres of wetland could be impacted. And studies have shown, Carrie, you can correct me if you have better statistics, but a wetland can store up to 1 million gallons of water, right? So that's a lot of storm water that when those wetlands are gone won't have any place else to go. And one of the things, the refuge protects primarily land along the Waccamaw and Pee Dee River and those floodplains. And so with disturbance to the refuge, with the impacts from losing those wetlands, the refuge is a big part of mitigating flooding for our communities, which might not seem like a lot because we've had so much flooding, but without those wetlands, it would be so much worse. So at this point, we're still looking at all the alternatives, and we'll, certainly make comments in terms of what projects should be prioritized. But in addition to the refuge, we're really concerned about the local communities too, and the impacts to them from increased traffic. And we would much rather see efforts put to widen parts of 701 that need to be expanded, and the Bugsby bypass has already been shown to be something that would be very useful to Conway residents and to actually alleviate some of the flooding problems. So we would really, really like to see some of the roads that have been proven to actually have a positive impact be prioritized over projects like SC22 that are simply, truly just opening the rural areas up for development and a loss of important farmland and wetlands. Thank you very much. How many people have visited Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge? I have to ask. Yay! And if you haven't, please come out.
My name is Cheryl Kale. I'm actually here in the capacity of not American Rivers, although I do work for American Rivers. And I just want to say that I totally support, as an employee of American Rivers, the Winyah Rivers Alliance, Coastal Conservation League, and I'm sorry? Friends of Coastal, okay. Sorry, I drew a blank there. So I really wanted to just engage with you on a kind of a different place. We've heard about the reasons why economically it's not feasible or practical, environmentally why it's not sound planning for this road, I-73, the SC 22 connector. But pull back for a minute and think about where we are. And I want you to kind of step back into time, 300 years ago, in this area here. It was called the Howling Wilderness. It's hard to imagine that. Not many people wanted to live here. They opened up settlement, land grants were given. They established, I believe it was Kingston Parish, Conway Borough. There were, I believe at that time, about 700 land grants with about 100 people actually living here because they couldn't get people to come here. It was very hard. And you imagine why. We had rivers surrounded by swamplands, howling wilderness. You had Native Americans living here in villages. So I'm speaking to you from a point of reference as my ancestors were here at this point in time. What we need to consider when development comes in is what is lost. Because it is the oxymoron, development, but there's also loss that always comes with that. As you pave over things, as you remove things, as you no longer have access to places that you could have had access to at one point in time, it's gone. I visited places that were at one point in time a historic cemetery, but because of certain things happening over time, it was no longer there. It became a parking lot, or it became a very large church planted on top. So as you're thinking about how these roads are going to be coming in, you have to take into consideration of what will possibly be lost. And the reason why historic preservation is important and the reason why that needs to be considered is because you cannot roll back and take that back. You lose something going forward into the generations of sharing that culture, that piece of history. There's a lot here that's offered, and I'm going to ask how many people are originally from this region, Horry County. So we have a lot of people that are not. I'm one. I haven't lived here all my life. I did grow up coming here. My grandmother did live here all of her life. So I feel very connected to Horry County. But what I do know is that there's a sadness and a grieving when I see something that's no longer there because a road came through. And the consideration that has to be taken when these projects are being developed is what will it actually cost the community? Because the dollars, well, they're going to get it through taxes. But what will it actually cost people that have residency here, that have history here, that are connected, that can no longer share the dog and suds that used to exist on whatever road, Church Street? Well, that's gone now. So some of these things are significant for us historically. And in some communities like Bucksport, where we've identified some really awesome sites like Edie Cemetery. Am I saying it correctly?
Eddy Lake.
Eddy Lake. There are certain areas in that community that they will be gone. And that takes away from that community's cohesiveness and significance. As you're displaced out of a community, that happens, and that happens with roads coming in, new construction, development, and displacement. Historically, you look back, and this has happened time and time again, and it seems like it could be the right thing to do, but it's not, because we lose so much more, and you cannot put a dollar sign on that. And that is it's a hard thing to factor in. So I'd ask each and every one of you to consider what is it that it's going to cost us in that respect with our preservation of what matters and what makes this area historically significant. What did we value besides the wetlands, besides the health of our environment and the biodiversity? So I'd just like to thank you for giving me that time and allowing me to share that perspective.
And you didn't introduce yourself as Vice Chief of the Waccamaw.
Oh, and I apologize, I did not introduce myself. I'm also Vice Chief of the Waccamaw Indian people, and so I kind of gave you the other hat tonight and why it matters.
That's okay. Hello everyone, I am Executive Director of One Y'all Rivers Alliance. I am Deborah Buckin. I'm so glad to be here today. How much time do you have? How much time do we have? About 2 hours? I'm going to kind of sum up what Cheryl said a little bit about what's lost. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and you'll know why I care. I grew up on the Little Petey River. Amazing place. I grew up on the Little Petey River with my parents, and then my papa had a farm over in Horry County. So I grew up in the best of both worlds. Had the river at my front door, and then I had the farm from my papa's. Yeah, I was very blessed. We worked hard still, but we were very blessed. I grew up fishing before I could walk. Water skiing by the age of 5. I can't remember hardly a day, especially during the summer, that we weren't on the river in some form or capacity. And the fellow over here with the camera, he was right there with us, or actually his brother was. He was my neighbor. We lived like 6 miles down in a swamp in the Little Petey River, and they were about the second family down, they were about the third and fourth anyway. Amazing place to grow up. Surrounded by woods, the river, nature, the beauty. That's how I grew up. I'm so blessed that I grew up that way. You know, my papa taught me how to fish. We'd feed the animals. He'd say, "Bee," that was my nickname. "Bee, let's go dig bait from the flat bay, and let's go fishing." After we fed the animals and took care of the farm, so we would dig bait and we'd go fish in the river. And I learned a lot about it. I learned how to take care of it. I learned how to protect it. I learned how to sit there and listen to it. And I don't know if any of you ever do that, and I'll cry. I'm one of those weird people. It's a good thing to be a weird person, because I'll sit there and I'll watch these wetlands, and I'll sit on the bank of the river, and I'll hear the birds, and I'll hear the woodpeckers, and it's beauty to me. Somebody made a comment the other day to me that I thought it was really cool how I find beauty in woods. I think it's amazing. I get to sit there and watch it all day long, and like I said, I'm one of those weird people that way. But that's how I grew up, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And nothing against the city life. Been there, done that too. Lived in Orlando, Florida for a little while briefly. Been there, done that. That's great. But that's not what I want for me. And that's not what I want for my children. If they want to do that, that's fine. But I want my children and I want my children's children and their children to be able to do the same thing. And that's what I'm going back to what Cheryl was just saying there. Is that you can't get that back. And I had some notes on here too. But might go off. You can't get that back once it's lost. I'm not against development. I'll be the first to say. I remember when this I-73 talk came about 30 years ago. I was sitting in a little office, and I won't say the office. Had a little bird tell us, a little governor tell us that, oh, they're getting ready to put this interstate down this highway. It's coming. So some things happened, so it didn't go down 501. But I was involved in those conversations. I remember those conversations 30 years ago. And I've always made the statement that I'm not against development, but I am against the proposed path that it's taking, that they want I-73 to take through the Little Petey River, through Marion County. And maybe our community didn't speak up enough. Maybe we don't own enough property on the Little Petey River that we were able to say, no, you can't have our river. You can't bring it through Marion County. But we didn't speak up enough, I guess, so now this proposed path is coming to split up Little Petey River. It's taking farms, eminent domains, taking homes for an interstate. And you know what they're telling Marion County? And I was from Marion County, by the way, Mullins, South Carolina, guys, even though our farm was in Horry County. They're telling these Marion County citizens, oh my gosh, it's going to bring so much economic growth for your area. If you got an interstate in Marion, you can be on at the beach, which is their destination, in 25 minutes. Do you really think they're going to stop in the city of Marion and spend any money? Or in the city of Mullins? But no, they told Marion County citizens, oh my gosh, it's going to be some economic growth for you. No, it isn't. It's going to be a ghost town. Look at Dillon. I mean, I know they said there's growth there, and I know ports come there now, but Dylan can tell you and vouch that the interstate didn't help them. So they're promising Marion County citizens is economic growth. I don't see it. I don't like the lies. I like to be very truthful. I tell it like it is. That's how I want people to tell me like it is. They've been lied to. It's not going to bring in any growth. Part of Marion County communities, Marion County citizens, we've been flooded. Talking about what Carol was talking about, the flooding. My parents lost everything twice. We lived on the Petey River for 50 years, never had water in the yard. Hurricane Matthew and Florence came, we lost everything. No person should ever have to have their daddy drive up in their yard and ask if he could live with you. My daddy and mom lost everything twice. And I know flooding, I know it's not just because of interstate coming through. I know we've got climate change. I know the waters are rising, and they are rising. Come on, people. The waters are rising. It's happening. Climate change, whether you want to call it climate change or whatever you want to call it, it's happening. Like I said, my parents said they're 50 years, never had water in the yard, and twice they flooded. But anyway, my parents lived with me 2 different times. We took care of them, got them back, and yeah, did we go back? Yeah, we went back. Call us crazy, we went back. Because we love that little piece of swamp down there. It's an amazing place. But these interstates coming through, it's going to make it worse. These communities, the city of Nichols lost everything. Fair Bluff on further north lost everything. City of Nichols has a Dollar General in it now and a Sunny Mart. And that's it. And what do you think this interstate's going to do? Is it going to make it any better? No, it's going to make it worse. With all this infrastructure for I-73, what's it going to do to the communities along the Little Petey River, like my family who live downstream, who've already flooded twice? No, when there was a more feasible way, a better way to go. If you want to build an interstate, put it next to an existing highway, or expand an existing highway that's already there. Why would you put it through splitting up Little Petey River? Look at fragmentation. I haven't mentioned that wildlife fragmentation. What about all the hunters, all the fishermen? What's it going to do to Little Petey River, the Little Petey Heritage Reserve? What are preserves made there for? Why do we have a preserve there? To protect it so that we can go out there and our children can go out there and they can enjoy it and be in nature. And you've got an interstate going to come through a heritage preserve? That doesn't make any kind of sense. And like Carol was talking about mitigation, well, yeah, they said, we mitigated over here on Gunners Island or somewhere another road. Okay, well, what's it helping people upstream where you're taking the land? I mean, I could go on and on and on. But my point is here today is that we need to, going back to our roads, we need to fix our roads first. Anybody ever hit a pothole? You live in South Carolina, right? Okay, it's like a pinball machine. Literally, it's like a pinball machine. You don't know which side of the road to go on because of the potholes. And this is going off way about the nature. This is going off about the roads. How terrible they are. Yeah, I have somebody DOT on my phone here. I'll send him a text right quick. Tony, you got a pothole right here that needs to get fixed. And Tony's pretty good. He does the best he can, and he'll get it fixed for me. I'll say, Tony, you're going to have a wreck right here. This needs fixing. And Tony's pretty good, and he'll do it because he knows I'll put it on Facebook. He knows I'll share it, and I'll get very vocal about it. Because our roads need fixing. Guess what? We're not just Myrtle Beach. I live in Pleasant View area, going toward Loris. I live in Horry County. And we are not just Myrtle Beach. We are small town people who have to live on these roads with these potholes. And guess what? A little bit of rain comes now. My little house is an island. All the little roads around me get flooded. And it's an island. So you're telling me you're going to put, what was it, for just interstate, millions of dollars, $450 million into the I-73, right? Yeah, so you're going to do that, but yet your citizens of Horry County can't even drive whenever a little bit of rain comes because the roads are flooded. It just doesn't make any sense. Fix our roads. You want to put an interstate in? Go for it. After you repair our roads first. We are citizens. It's not all Myrtle Beach. No offense to Myrtle Beach. Love Myrtle Beach. Love the beach. But we are not just Myrtle Beach. We are the country. We are the farmers. We are the fishermen. I love to fish. We are the hunters. I used to hunt. I don't anymore. I just take pictures of them now. But anyway, I believe hunters and fishermen are the biggest conservationists you can have. But anyway, we are the everyday person, and the everyday average Joe needs to stand up and say, hey, you know what? Fix our roads. You want to put all these millions and millions of dollars in the interstate. What's it going to do for these small towns? It's not going to help these small towns. It's not going to do it at all. fix our roads first. Before you go and messing up some beautiful land on the Little Petey River, which I do cherish, very much so. And I hope to die on the Little Petey River one day. I mean, get into that, but yeah. But I love it that much, and I want to protect that. Is it really worth making a new way through there, taking these farms, taking these homes that have been there forever, these people that have flooded downstream, upstream, making it worse on them, potholes in our roads? We've got to raise our roads up. We've got to do infrastructure on our bridges. I mean, it's crazy. But yet we're going to spend $450 million on a highway that is not going to help the everyday person. It just isn't. So, with that being said, and I've got the address right here, and I will pull it up. So, with that being said, if everyone would just send a comment letter, and I know you've got it on your papers, comments to ride4@horrycountysc.gov. Send you an email. Or you can mail them to Horry County Government, care of Ride Program, 4401 Privets Road, Conway, 29526. Comments will be accepted through February 18, 2024. But what I want you to tell them is fix our roads first. We're not telling them they can't have an interstate or they can't have some development, because that's going to happen anyway. We're not being ridiculous and thinking that they're not going to grow, we're not going to have development, we're not going to have new roads. Because with all those people coming in that Becky said were coming in, we're going to probably have some new roads. But fix our roads first and do it in a responsible manner where you're not destructing and destroying wetlands. Let's do it right and protect our communities. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, so like Deborah mentioned, if you picked up one of these on the front, we've got some talking points that are our position. You are welcome to use your own reasoning. On the back, you'll see the upcoming public meetings that Horry County is hosting. The first one was tonight. There's another one tomorrow in North Myrtle Beach. And then that contact information is at the bottom. So at the public meetings, they're going to have a comment form that you can give them right there and then. Or you can email them later, or you can mail in your comment cards. So please do that. Please have a say in the roads that you want to see, don't want to see, all that. And just for the last 15 or so minutes, I'd love to open it up for any questions or comments.
Given all this once in 100 years, it seems to be happening once every 2 years, flooding to the people in Bucksport, what is your proposal to help them evacuate?
Well, evacuation is less important for me than mitigating the flooding. So there's a proposed project that Horry County is working on. It's about $700,000 to elevate Big Bull Landing and to put in culverts. So that is one project that they have in mind for addressing the flooding. So it would create essentially like a dam to stop the flooding from going into Bucksport. That is a good first step, but they're going to need additional measures like that to address flooding at a Florence level event. So that's talking about having a mechanized floodgate. There's another position further on that we could have another one. And we have this Waccamaw flood study that's coming out that the Army Corps has partnered with the City of Conway and Horry County to do. It's supposed to start this year and last or I guess it started last year with the kickoff, and it's supposed to be wrapping up with their proposals for potential solutions by 2027. So I think that's a great step to research solutions for addressing the flooding for communities like Bucksport. So I think that's focusing on Bucksport, Socastee, City of Conway, and Longs with that Waccamaw study.
Now, you've come here and given us a lot of valuable information. This is a very small group. How are you reaching the greater community?
Well, we had another meeting like this in Bucksport last week. We plan to send it out to our email list, but we would love your help in helping to spread the word, talking to your neighbors, writing letters to the editor to share your position and your concerns for, again, roads that you'd like to see, roads that you don't want to see. So I think it's important for folks in this room that took time out to come out on a, not as cold as it has been, but still a January evening after dark. Y'all are already engaged, so we need y'all to help us spread the word.
Do you have relationships with the newspapers, the TV stations?
Well, we've got one media outlet here, but yes, we do have some relations with the newspapers and the media outlets, but you know, they don't want to hear from the Coastal Conservation League all the time. They love to hear from residents who may be experiencing flooding, may have had you know, issues evacuating in previous storms. So it's important to have regular voices heard. That again, they don't want to hear from the Coastal Conservation League all the time. So if you are interested in speaking to the media, we would be happy to make that connection for you.
Well, I think they do a lousy job of representing the local concerns of the community, frankly. Corey News, Waccamaw Publishing, I think is just dropped the ball, in my opinion.
Well, they need folks speaking up.
You can always reach out to them and request to write a letter to the editor.
I have reached out to them.
Let us get my card and I'll help you get a contact.
Yeah, and Post and Courier just had a article in about the Ride 4 program, and that's a really great opportunity to do a letter to the editor, like to respond to that actual article and say, hey, this is the community member's standpoint on these programs. They're far more likely to publish something from a community member than they are from us, because they already kind of know our stance. So.
And I shared that on Window Rivers Alliance Facebook page, so you can go to that page and see if you can find anywhere else that Post and Courier article.
I just want to mention something because it's come up twice, just the word evacuation. And, you know, Cell on the Southern Evacuation Lifeline was deemed as an evacuation route. We just had to have to save lives. That is now, the name's totally been changed because it's not actually an evacuation route. The Army Corps of Engineers have changed or requested the name to be changed. So it has been, now it's just Highway 22 extension. But I'm from here, I grew up here. We've never had an issue evacuating, never. Not to say we won't ever, but our issue comes weeks after the storm, when the rivers rise. And that's because our existing infrastructure is not matched to compete with, you know, rivers rising to the degree that they do today. And a lot of that is the change in weather and climate change, and increased impervious surfaces along the floodplain. So I don't think, you know, the evacuation is an issue right now. I mean, if you got the perfect evacuation route, you know, coming, and you still can't get out to your neighborhood to get to it, then what's the point? And you know, that map with all the red lines, I mean, that's an issue. That's what needs to be addressed first.
That's the key.
And I did hear a stat tonight that, you know, 57% of the projects are improving existing roads, but I would argue that could be better. Let's shoot for 75% or 80% or 100.
Yeah, fix our existing roads before we talk about new ones.
The folks that made a point about once something's gone, it's gone, historic cemeteries, etc. The perfect example of that, I was thinking about that as they were mentioning that. If anybody's gone to San Antonio and gone to see the Alamo, oh my God. Let's not have that happen here.
It looks so tiny compared to.
Well, because you're in a high-rise next to it. It's like, wait a minute, this is a national historic spot, and they built high-rises around it.
And that's a problem, you know, that I see with this county is we don't give enough protection and importance to our existing conservation lands. You know, those were set aside to be protected in perpetuity. They're only really protected inside the boundary lines of those preserves and refuges and national parks. They're only protected inside those boundary lines, but it's up to us, it's up to our county, it's up to our council to protect them from external threats. And running a road right through the middle of them is that shouldn't even be considered. Shouldn't be considered.
How protected is it if you can run a road through it?
Exactly.
It's supposed to be
That's the
because
problem.
it's federal,
That's up to
federal
us.
protected land,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's up to our county.
it's up, yeah.
Dave, you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to say, to the lady that was, and I understand the media, ma'am, I understand we get beat up, there's 350,000 locals in Horry County. We reach 40,000 of them every day. Now, when I say 40,000, please understand that people in New York read us, and I don't know why, but people out of state read us too. But issues like this matter, and we're local, and local news matters. So some of the people that are here, the large TV stations, are global corporate institutions. We're local. And so if you want a voice, ma'am, I'll be happy to give you my information, and I'll be happy to put you on. Or if you want to send us an editorial, we'll be happy to put it up for you. I just want you to know that you do have a voice, and county council listens to us, as Becky or Trapper will tell us. They listen to us very, very, they're very attentive to what we
But
have
it's
to
still
say.
important to get up there and say it.
Absolutely, very much so. Absolutely.
And, I'm sorry,
David?
where you with?
Myrtle Beach, SC.
I didn't know if you had-
Do you have a question?